So I would like to open up the floor to the audience to raise questions to our panelists or ask, make points of own experience. I already see Ian eager to take the floor for that, please.
Yes, hello everyone. I've got a very booming voice, but it doesn't carry over the internet to the 250 people who aren't in the room. Yes, I just wanted to add a little bit of a gloss to Thierry's comments on the AI systems as a tool, and to stress their nature as a tool rather than as a computer says so it must be so decision-making a scheme. I'm old enough to remember how incredibly difficult it was to do legal research. You had to subscribe to a lot of carefully curated textbooks which came out every month and do research across literally libraries of books. I can now find the research is so much quicker. But the problem is, and it's especially a problem in common law systems, where you don't necessarily look to statute, and there may be no code to look to, and the law develops by judicial decision. Because what a tool will not do is to predict the completely, the black swan, the decision that comes absolutely out of nowhere and moves the law forward because nobody had thought of it before. I take, for example, the snail in the ginger beer bottle back in the 1920s in Scotland. Basically, the case was that there was found to be a duty of care by a soft drink a seller to not the customer who bought the drink, but somebody she gave the drink to. Now, that just wouldn't work under contract. And that launched an entire new chapter of the law. Or in my own modest experience, my waking up one morning and trying to persuade people successfully that there's such a thing as a servitude of parking, and going back, as Giri did, just because the Romans didn't mention it in the digest didn't mean they didn't have it. Now, those are completely unpredictable decisions if all you ever did was search the previous case law. So I think we have to really welcome and embrace AI as a hugely powerful tool, but always remember that it is a tool and it can't substitute for the creative skill of the lawyer.
Thank you. Is anyone who would like to comment on that?
Maybe I will make a comment coming from my own experience, which is even longer as the one of Jan. And to analyze what those tools during the last 2 years, because they are no older than that, what do they have changed to my own way of doing legal researches? As you know, I am a lawyer from civil law country. So Jan has presumed that we were beginning by looking to code and statutes. In fact, never. But in the old days, we were looking and beginning the research, but by what French and German lawyers call the doctrine, meaning the books where there is the interpretation of the law and where the law is explained. And it was the beginning, usually, of course, the code, but it was the beginning of the research. And now, I'm not behaving like that. I just ask my question to the case law database, because I don't care about what a legal pro teacher has written about the way to interpret the law, because they are building, we know that they are building pyramid and a very complex construction. I don't care about that. I just want the way the judge is interpreting the law. So I go directly to the case law to find the way the judge is interpreting the law. And obviously, it's very different from what I was used to do. And it's very different from the way the law has been taught and is or still teaching to students, looking very systematically in a very logical way and so on. No, I go directly to the solution. I don't say it's better, but what I see is the change. And if I'm behaving like that, I guess that younger lawyers are also behaving like that, and it's quite different from what we were used to do.
Thank you. Are there other questions? Yes, I see there on the left. Please.
Sorry, I once did some research on AI and legal tech, and there were two quotes I would like to share with you, and they're a little bit contradictory, maybe, but the one says, "It's true that legal technology will replace jobs, but that does not mean that it will replace people who provide something artificial intelligence cannot. A mixture of an intelligence quotient and an emotional intelligence, such as empathy, persuasiveness, and sympathy, and above all, creativity." So that's the one thing. It's like the lawyer before me said, it's a tool. It helps us to make better decisions, but it can never replace us because it lacks things humans have. But then the second one, and it's important maybe for lawyers who don't adapt to technology, it says technology is at the heart of our species. It's simply unfolding at a rate we have never seen before. As always, those who will adapt will succeed, while those who don't will be subject to natural selection.
It's really you, it's the second one.
Shall I respond?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Please.
just briefly, I think well, these quotes are not contradictory. I mean, what I think we will see is that legal services that can be commoditized, and yes, those will be automated, and those lawyers that just do commoditized legal services will no longer have anything to eat. But those lawyers that have the added value, like perhaps maybe litigation lawyers, criminal lawyers, then I think they will still have lots of work to do. And so that's, I think, quite clear.
Well, I think there is one experience that everyone can do. Just check your last week, hour after hour, and check what can be done by a machine, what will be done by a machine, and what will not be done by a machine. And obviously, you will realize that a large part of what we are doing cannot be done by a machine because we have been interacting with other lawyers, with clients, with people, with judge. And that part of our job will not be replaced by machines. But then you will find that you have done case law studies, that you have written briefs, and so on. And if you are really well organized, it has been done by a young associate, not by you. But it happens that sometimes you are making law yourself. And that part of the job will be profoundly changed by artificial intelligence. And so you can measure in your own practice what will be the effect. And I think that it's a job to be done by the whole profession. In USA, you have what is being called, I think, UBMTS codes, meaning that you have all the data about what lawyers are doing exactly. And working from that, you can predict exactly what will be the change. And I think that it is one of the things we can imagine to do, building databases, not with the element covered by the confidentiality, but about the way we are working to understand better our profession and to help to act and to take the good decision and direction.
I just add something. I'm not agree with the second quote. It's really rude, and I think it's why we are here. It's to help the people and the lawyer to don't be lost. So I think it will not happen, the second quote, so I hope.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those quotes. And indeed, one quote which I once came across was, AI will not replace lawyers, but lawyers who will use AI will replace those who will not use AI. And that makes
So lawyer will-
connecting well to
Evolution of
what you have said. Yes. Yes. Roman, please.
Thank you very much. I would agree with Thierry, Ian, and of course also with the colleagues who shared the experience. Also, I'm using a lot of IT tools in my work, which makes my life sometimes very much easier than before. I still remember how it was when, as a young associate, I need to search for my principal hours and hours collecting informations. But have you ever thought that what is the outcome of such a tools? Perhaps you still remember the judgment which were nicely written, short, understandable. So the language was perfect and really understandable to people. But nowadays, I could share a couple of experience, either national one or international one. Because of using IT tools, the young associate legal advisors, certain, let's say, courts, they just search through the basis of court practice. They search for specific paragraphs of what they need and use to make explanation or the reasoning. And at the end, we receive the judgments which are full of copy-paste paragraphs, sentences for different judgments, which is totally ununderstandable at the end. So as a lawyer, I have many times problems to explain my clients what in fact the court was meaning with such a paragraph. But do not understand me wrongly. I use IT tools on a daily life, almost 3/4 of my professional life. But the outcome, it's something sometimes really not understandable. But this is not something what we could teach young associates, because they are in need. They need to find something, they need to prepare for their principals, for the judges or somebody who they are working with. But the outcome is really, just think about one European Court of Human Rights judgment. Have you ever read the whole text? So I was working there. It's really not understandable. Or the ECJ, so it's even worse. You could not understand it, because there is a lot of paragraphs which are just copy-pasted. It's a bonus for using such a tool, but we need to know why and how we use it, because usually the facts are overlooked, and we just follow, oh, there is one paragraph which is interesting for my explanation. And that's why a lot of tuition, a lot of education needs to be put into the part how we use it, be it the lawyers, the judges, or whatever. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
A brief comment. So perhaps the same way as we are dealing with the issue of explainability of AI, then we should be dealing with the explainability of humans and lawyers in general. It's like that, and it's especially important if we are promoting the right to a human judge. Because if we'll succeed and there will be no AI judge, but only human judge, then they need to explain themselves, right? And not just them, it's even the lawyers representing the parties and the motions and so on. So, good point.